Welcome back, everyone, to the Between the Lines podcast. I'm your host, Shania Trotter, and today we're going to talk about Sinners. Thank y'all for reminding me to make a podcast about Sinners. I feel like when Sinners came out, I talked about it so much in person, in my classes, um, just with my family and friends, to where I didn't really talk about it on social media like that. Like, not the way how I thought I was going to, because I just feel like I talked about it so much. By the time it was coming down to like TikTok, like, oh, I should make like a series or videos, like I don't know, I just didn't end up doing it. But it wasn't, so I don't want y'all to think like, oh, what happened to the videos? Like, she wasn't really messing with the movie. No, honey. I love this movie. I watched it so many times. I think I went to the movie theater and watched it like 3, 4 times. Like, I had to be there. Like, no scene was wasted with this movie. And there's so many subliminal messages and just things that are for certain people. Like, again, like, if you know, you know. Like, it reminds me of Get Out, where it's for the ones, if you know, you know. You feel me? The message ain't for everybody. So some people went into that theater for Get Out and was just like, oh, that movie's not even all that scary, or oh, that was a cool thriller, not understanding, like, oh, for the ones who understand, yeah, that's a warning. Yeah, they spilling tea. And the same thing with Sinners. So like, some people, they literally only got that it was a scary movie, which again, it really wasn't scary for real. Or, oh, like, it's just about vampires and stuff there. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you think that, but again, for the ones that get it, they get it. I mean, it is about vampires, you feel me? But it's just, I'm like, it ain't just about vampires. But again, it ain't for everybody. So one thing about this, we gonna be making multiple videos on Sinners, okay? So today, the angle that I wanna, come from is the fact that it was like a call to action, right? To call back your power and to choose your freedom. Like, when I was watching, I really felt that, Ryan Coogler was trying to be like, hey, I need y'all to wake up. Like, African Americans, I need y'all to wake up. I need y'all to remember who you are. I need you to remember where you came from. I need you to understand the impact that you have on the culture, on media, pop culture, like all type of stuff, music, entertainment industry, everything. And by not doing so, by not remembering, by not going out of your way and reconnecting with your history and just knowing where you came from and how to protect yourself, you are leaving yourself vulnerable. Okay, like, us as a community, we are leaving ourselves vulnerable. Like, no, it's not necessarily our fault. Like, when you go back to, like, why are we so vulnerable? Why don't we remember? Like, why, like, when were we stripped of these things, right? Okay, it goes back to the Atlantic slave trade. But it is up to us now. Like, we have too many resources now for us to ignore it. You feel what I'm trying to say? And although you may have to make some sacrifices, okay? You may have to leave some people behind. You may have to make some hard choices. You need to choose your freedom. Okay? You need to choose your freedom. You need to choose yourself. You need to understand that you have inner power, okay? And you need to choose that. And so, like, when we're talking about inner power, I want to talk about like the first minute or two of the movie itself, when it's talking about, like, griots, right? Or griots, and basically how basically Sammy is definitely one of them. I feel like even Delta Slim is one as well. But how they were saying it, they were like, that's a way of storytelling, and it goes all, and it's in every culture, right? And basically, it can bring good things, right? But also, by you doing it or engaging in this act, it can bring evil. But it's not, or it can attract evil. And we saw that with Remick, right? We saw that when they were, Sammy was doing the song "I Lied to You," and they were in the juke joint, and they're literally burning down the roof. Like, I know everybody was like, the roof is on fire. Like, that is what popped in my head too when I saw that scene. But also, on even like a spiritual level, we're gonna get to that. Let me not jump. But I'll just say this: we saw Sammy. He's basically a griot, okay? Um, but what the church and what his father was trying to insinuate is that, oh no, you doing all that singing in the June joint, and with your guitar, this, that, and the third, is only evil. It's only gonna bring evil. It's only gonna attract negative things, and you need to be doing that in the church. And it's funny because it's like, you ultimately want me to do the same thing, but just in a different place. So wouldn't that still attract evil, right? Wouldn't that still be negative? Wouldn't that still be a bad thing? You seem to be okay with what I'm doing as long as I'm doing it for you in your environment. right? So it doesn't even make sense, that logic. But talking about Sammy, it's important to see, okay, so his power is like, him singing, his talent with the guitar, and how he can bring people together with that. And honestly, that's another reason why I love that juke joint scene. I mean, that has to be one of the top scenes I done seen in a long time. it just it was the perfect example of like how much impact African Americans have in like the media, pop culture, and it was just hip hop, like everything. It was just crazy the way how we were like Ryan Coogler was able to connect the past to the present, and it was just like damn, this is hitting me in my chest. It was the perfect embodiment of the Sugar Shack painting by Ernie Barnes, and it just truly brought it to life. And that's why it was really cool because I mean, growing up, I would see these not photos, these paintings, and wonder what like how it would sound, like what it would be like. And then sometimes you have the music playing from back then, the blues, and then you see the painting, but to see it all together, like, oh, that was powerful. I'm not gonna lie. But then also to have the buildup of the movie with this scene at the juke joint, I feel like it really pointed out how powerful it is to be able to bring people together where they are so oppressed already, they are so confined, they are so restricted, and they're silenced, where you have the power to bring them together. And whether you are singing the music yourself or you're playing an instrument, you're doing whatever the case is, you have the power to bring these people together and allow them to be free, even if it's just for one night. And they're just truly being free in that moment. That's powerful. It is. It really is. And for me, it was the fact that everybody had a chance. Everybody was dancing. Multiple people were singing on stage. Everybody had the stage. And everybody's ancestors were there, right? And so, compared to Remick, if you remember Remick, when he was doing his song, he was the one in the middle. Everything was centered around him. Everybody was cheering him on, right? They're, dancing to the beat of his drum instead of everybody being able to take the floor like at the juke joint, everybody being completely free. What Remick is asking them to be a part of or demanding them to be a part of is something that's going to be it's still going to be a hierarchy. It's not like a level playing field where everybody's able to be free. He is still trying to rob you of your freedom. And it was very smart to use Remick. It was, someone from like the, Irish background, because yeah, their freedom was ripped away from them too. And so he was able to be like, you know what? Look, me and you, we one of the same. Like they did us dirty too. Even when, Sammy, he started praying. Remember he started praying? And he was like, look, he started praying back. He said, look, what did he say? He said, they said those same words when they was, taking our land and killing our people, doing this, doing that. I hate those men, but those words do still bring me comfort. And I was like, ooh, okay. Cause now we getting into it. We getting into it because that brings me to the next thing of like, it was also a call of like, again, deconstruct religion. Deconstruct religion. This is not me to say F your religion, no. But you need to deconstruct your religion. You leave what, doesn't resonate, you take what does, but you need to deconstruct it because following anything blindly is not healthy, honey. It's not safe. And especially for African Americans. And especially like back in this time. But even now, right? We need to deconstruct Christianity. Like it just is what it is. And so that's why I love the fact that Ryan Coogler put this in there because it's just like, damn, yeah. Why is that? Why does those words that the men that, terrorized your ancestors and your families and took stuff away from you, why do the words from those men bring you comfort? When you hate those men, shouldn't you technically hate those words too? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And this is not to say that there's no good in the word of the Bible and things like that, but it's just more of like you need to deconstruct it enough to where, again, you take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And you need to be able to ask questions, okay? And this is for anything, right? But especially for black folk, you have to deconstruct Christianity. You have to deconstruct religion, especially because it's the same religion that they use to oppress you. Like, hello. Like, we do need to start deconstructing. And this does not mean you have to just be like, oh, there's nothing good about the Bible, there's nothing good about the word, there's nothing good about religion. No, that's not the case. But multiple things can be true at once, right? Like, there can be, good things and good principles and good lessons to learn from the Bible or from religion, whatever the case is. But it could also be used as a tool to further oppress you. And it was. There is no, it could, it was, and it still is. Sorry to say it, but not sorry to say it, right? And that's a parallel that Remick and Sammy's father have. They're both trying to get him to relinquish his power, surrender his power to them for their use, basically. And if, again, something's supposed to be quote unquote good for you, right? Or the only way, why is it trying to force you to submit your power and your freedom, the things that ultimately saved you? Because remember, when even Sammy, okay, we see that physically his guitar saved him, quite literally, from Remick, right? But on top of the fact, like, when he hit him with his guitar, but on top of the fact that this was saving him even spiritually and emotionally. Like, again, Sammy was like, when his dad was like, I don't see why you be trying to, be out there and do all that simple stuff, whatever. And he's just like, I just want one day. He said, I met my quota for the day. Okay, I've been working. Okay. I just want one day, one night to be free. I'm going to be at church in the morning. But can I have one night? Because mind you, it's not like he's saying, I don't want you singing and playing at all. Da, 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 da. It's like he's still allowing him to, play at the church. But he just want him to submit and commit to only the church. Like, that's only where you're going to sing and or play or whatever the case is. And in the movie, I think it was at the very end. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I watched the movie, I didn't catch this. So if you didn't see this part, maybe go back and rewatch it. But at the very, very end, he's in the church, he's playing the guitar, and he's singing, My Little Light of Mine, I'm gonna let it shine. But he did it in his own way. But even then, it's showing that, again, he can still play and be here, but he could still do his own thing. He's still gonna add some blues in there, and that should be fine. Even in the song I Lied to You, he said, um, I think he said his blood was mixed with he's mixed with the blues and holy water too. Again, he's not saying that it has to be one or the other. He's like, no, like, yeah, I'm a church boy. Yeah, I'm a preacher's kid, but that don't mean that, I can't go and, still be passionate about the blues. Like, I love the blues. It just is what it is. And it doesn't mean that, oh, because I love the blues, I can't be singing the church. But again, Remick and his father are like, no, it has to be my way or the highway. Why is that? Like, what's going on? Because at that point, it don't seem like it's really good for me. Like, it can't really be that good for me if I got to give up so fucking much. But again, Ryan Coogler was saying too, like, he was just like, everybody has to make sacrifices. Even when he thinks about his ancestors moving from, I think he said he's from Oakland, right? So he was just like, even when I think about my ancestors and like what did they have to sacrifice in order to like get their freedom, right? And I think that's going to be another episode where we talk about like who was the most free. Like who was the most free in this movie. I remember I was talking to one of my professors, and I was just like, who do you think the most free was? And I think he said Delta Slim, because he was like, when Stack had approached him, he was just like, honestly, I'm good. I got my liquor. I got my gig that I do every night or every week, whatever the case is, and I know I'm good. I'm good with where I'm at, right? But then not so much, because he was a slave to that liquor. He was, and that's ultimately what got him to go to juke joint in the first place. But even then, even when he was telling his story, and he was talking about like basically like uh we got to talk about that story when they were in the car going down that highway, and he saw his friends that were still imprisoned, like in the way that they were. I was just like, oof, that was deep. That was the embodiment of blues right there. That was actually the perfect embodiment right there. But we're gonna talk about that in another episode. But in that story, he did ask, like, they asked, like, what did you do with all that money? Because he was saying he was getting paid good money. He said he blew it all on liquor. And so I was just like, damn. So really, really you ain't all that free. You ain't all that free. But anyway, we're gonna get into that in another episode. But I'm gonna say this too: when it comes to the Native American representation in the movie, I actually love the scene that they were in because it really shows the difference of, like, even just a group of like African Americans and Native Americans. And this is why it's such a call to action of like, hey, I need y'all to remember who you are. I need you to remember where you came from, and I need you to not stop giving away your power. For one, choose your power, choose your freedom. But then let's go back to our roots and understand like how to protect ourselves, because I loved when they showed the Native Americans in the beginning. They knew exactly what to do to Remic's ass, and he was running for the hills with them. Okay. But I love the representation of Native Americans in this movie because although Native Americans face mass genocide, right, for the Native Americans that were still here during this time of this movie, they're still very connected to the earth. And I feel still as a whole, Native Americans compared to African Americans are still very much connected to the earth. They're still very much connected to their spiritual practices. Like, for the most part, they still know who they are, where they come from. Things are still passed down from family to family or tribe to tribe. And this is, of course, I'm talking about on a macro level, not micro individual levels, because of course I know that there's a lot of things that happen, like even with the boarding schools and all type of stuff. So I understand there's a lot of stuff to where there are Native Americans out there where they're like, I don't know where I'm from actually. They fucked us up. Like I don't know. But for the most part, compared to African Americans, where African Americans went through a whole process of being stripped of their identity, stripped of their name, stripped of their spirituality, stripped of, anything and everything, and then taught to hate themselves. Like, it was a whole thing. It was a whole ass thing. And I'm not saying what Native Americans is not, but just saying it's different. So I'm like, we're not going to play the oppression Olympics, but it was different. And so that's why the outcome is also different. And that's why it's like, it's still in us today, child. And that's intentional. They don't want you to know your power. They don't want you to know how to protect yourself, because who knew how to protect themselves in this movie? Miss Annie. Yes. Miss Annie knew what to do. And matter of fact, if it wasn't for her, everybody would have been gone. And I love how Ryan Coogler portrayed Hoodoo. Like, again, didn't get too much into it. You feel me? Because one thing, of course, we all saw one thing about it. As soon as everybody's hear about Hoodoo, as soon as everybody see what's going on, now they want to start looking into it. It's just kind of like, okay, well, hold on. We giving a little bit too much away on TikTok now, okay? It's for the, if you know, you know. If you don't, you're not supposed to know. Just is what it is. I'm like, y'all over here giving the tea, giving the recipes to the oppressors. What are we doing? What are we doing? Okay? No is a full sentence. Sometimes you just be like, no. They be like, oh, can you explain what this means? No. No, I cannot. Like, and you could think it's rude, but it's just like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I know our ancestors looking like, what the hell is you giving the oppressors' children the damn recipe for that we was protecting you from them? Huh? Anyway, child. So I like that Ryan Coogler was like, it was not too much, but I already knew, and I'm pretty sure he already knew. Like, once you bring attention to this, it's gonna help some people wake up and be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Let me go. Oh, is this what I've been being called to do? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. But then I knew he knew there's gonna be people being like, oh my god, it's just, oh my god, this is so demonic. Okay, people. There were super religious people watching Sinners and then being upset that there was sinners in the damn movie. Like, yeah, there's gonna be people who kill and steal and do this. Yeah, there's gonna be people cheating on their husbands. Yeah, there's gonna be, I mean, it's sinners. Or, oh my gosh, there's vampires. I mean, if you was already like that, what are you doing even watching a movie called Sinners? Please be so for real. Anyway. But I feel like Annie's character is so important because I'm like, not only did she save everybody, and real quick, I just love the fact that we had a dark skinned black woman, plus size black woman, as one of the main love interests to one of or the love interest to one of the twins. Give it up. Give it up for that. I was like, Ryan Coogler, you did your big one with that. Thank you. Because yeah, I was seeing that people were confused. Like when her and Smoke started kissing and this, that, and the third, like some people were confused because they didn't think that they were romantically involved, even though when he first walks in or pulls up, he's going to a child's grave. Okay, he's going to a child's grave. Like, even just, she's, like, where you been and this, that, and they're like, yeah, I promise you, if she was lighter skinned and if she was skinny, y'all would have put two and two together before they started kissing. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm glad that media representation is starting to catch up with reality, because this is a very common body type in the black community, if not the world, or I mean, I'll say the country, especially America. People are heavier set in America, the majority. So I'm just like, compared to like the Vogue models and this, that, and the third. I'm just say that. Not everybody's heavy set, but you know, America, people compared to other places in the world, they're more heavy set. So I'm like, let's start. Art imitates life, life imitates art. So let's start making it imitate life a little bit more, so that people on the regular don't feel like they don't get no representation. Come just like, yeah, the black community, this is a very common body type. Let's be for real now. Like, big girls get love too. Understand. And I love the fact too that Smoke and Annie were the healthier couple. Now, it wasn't perfect, right? We saw that they had their ups and downs. We see that Smoke is out and about, doing him whatever, but that it wasn't no weird toxic shit. Like, it wasn't. It was like, no, this is somebody, and these are two people that really love each other. And this is also somebody that, although Smoke, outdoing him and not really ready to probably settle down and all that kind of stuff, in the way that she would need him to be. Like, I need you to sit down and stay put. Okay. She still loved him through that. And also the fact that they had a baby in the first place. That should show you, that alone, how deep they stuff was. And then seeing that, okay, they were gone for what, 7 years? It's probably when the baby passed away. And he probably didn't know. Smoke, come on now. He didn't know how to deal with that, right? And it doesn't make it right that he left at all, because what did you ultimately do? You left her to do that on her own. And that wasn't fair at all. But the fact that and I can understand why she's pissed. Like, boy, it's been 7 years. Hello? You gonna leave me here to do this shit on my own? Crazy. But she still loved him. And she still was packing that mojo bag, honey. She was still packing that mojo bag. And I love the fact that even though he talking about, oh, this stuff ain't real, why you still messing with this stuff? Oh, but you kept that mojo bag on, huh? Right. Go ahead and give it to me, so I already know you about to get in some shit. But yeah, her character meant so much to me, because it's like, people need to understand, African Americans, I'll say Africans, enslaved Africans, like, that was 200 plus years of being stripped of your humanity, being stripped of your culture, your language, your rituals, your way of life, being taught to hate yourself, like having no agency at all. Anything was happening and everything did. That's one thing about it. That's why, let's be so for real, that's why they don't really want to address it. That's why, okay, this country likes to put emphasis on Hitler and what he did to Jewish people and this, that, and third. Not saying it wasn't terrible, but we could point the finger and be like, oh, you see what happened over there? That was so crazy. That was terrible over there. Compared to, imagine if we were learning extensively, okay, unfiltered learning about the Atlantic slave trade that happened in America. Oh yeah, they would have to answer. They would have to pay. They would have to pay. And quite literally too. Because we would be growing up like, what the hell? Y'all used to make furniture out of our skin? Y'all used to eat us, our flesh? Y'all used to cook us? You had cookbooks about it was called the Delectable Negro? So you're showing how to cook us and different recipes? You guys were monsters. You're using our teeth to put dentures in your own mouth, our hair to fill up your couches and your chairs, let alone all the sex trafficking. I mean, that was human trafficking. The forefathers are human traffickers and sex traffickers, terrible people. Okay? The raping of our children, of our men, having whole plantations to rape boys and men, making them, do that to each other and their family members, like raping the babies, the toddlers, like you trying to see what I'm trying to say? Like, it gets dark it gets deep in this bitch. If we're gonna be so for real. They don't want you to remember all that. They want you to be as disconnected as you can be so that they can keep oppressing you and using you. Imagine if we were still so close, like if we were that close to what happened. Oh, oh yeah, it would be nothing like how it is today. We're able to coexist with people and white folk, especially the way that we are now, because a lot of us we don't remember. It didn't happen to us specifically, so we don't remember. Some people don't care because again they're so far removed, and they in America they try to keep that shit out of sight, out of mind. And again, a lot of black folk don't even like looking at, I'll say, the slave trade movies, because it just opens up that wound and we don't want to see it. Some people don't want to see it, but I do think it's important to see it sometimes, because you do need to remember. You do. But I also can understand not wanting to see it because it's painful. It is. It's painful. And then I got to go to work the next day and look at my white boss, but bills got to get paid. It's hurt. I said it's hurt. It's hurtful. It's painful. So I get it, but I still keep myself informed enough. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, I do think it's important to keep yourself informed enough. Um, so yeah, they don't want to get deep into it because it's okay to put the figure of somebody else in a different place, but you start getting into extensive details about what happened here on this soil. Okay, what's embedded in this country's soil and history, then yeah, they're gonna have to pay. They're going to have to, make some changes. And if we truly gave reparations the way that, is deserved, this whole thing would be flipped over. The people in power literally wouldn't be in power because, believe it or not, people are still benefiting. This country is still benefiting. Okay, that old money, the railroads, the buildings, the this, the that, yes. African Americans built this country, quite literally, for free. Everybody's still benefiting. Okay? Everybody's still benefiting. So it's like, I think her character means so much to me because it's just like, okay, everything that we had when they kidnapped us, okay, kidnapped our ancestors and brought us over here, they tried to demonize. They tried to call uncivilized. They called us savages. We said that we were uneducated, even though we had all our education and our own systems and everything already set in place before they kidnapped us. But one of the things is our spirituality, our spiritual practices. They demonized that too. And back during the Atlantic slave trade, and even this, what was that? The Spanish Inquisition. They was killing folks if you didn't submit to Christianity and become a Christian. You was gone. You was gone. And that's what I'm saying. Deconstruct your religion, because how is that good? How is that good? Oh yeah, if you don't become this religion, you're gonna die. What? Hello? So again, we're not in those times no more. So you need to deconstruct. You need to ask questions. There was a time where you could not ask no questions if you wanted your life. So now that you can ask questions and deconstruct, go ahead and do that. Yeah. And specifically black folk. Again, I need y'all to ask questions. Back in the day, you wasn't allowed to read, you wasn't allowed to write, but you was allowed to go to church. Why is that? Okay, enslaved Africans, they weren't allowed to read, they weren't allowed to write, but they were allowed to go to church where they're being taught to turn the other fucking cheek. Where they're being taught that you need to honor your master like their God. What? I'm telling you, this is what I'm saying. Deconstruct, bro. But Annie's character meant a lot to me too, because not only was she showing them how to save themselves physically, like, okay, with the holy water, with the garlic, or you got to do, the wooden stake or whatever the case is, you also had her showing them how to save themselves spiritually as well, like how to save your soul. Like, oh, don't let them bite me, because kill me before they bite me, because we also have a life to live after this too. and she wanted to be with their child. And so it was just like, damn. And again, when it goes back to the Native American representation, showing how because they're so connected, because they know who they are, because they know where they come from, because they are connected to the land and the earth, um, they're also connected spiritually as well, and they know how to defend themselves physically, but also from spiritual warfare as well, or from any type of other entities or beings, right? Compared to African Americans who have been stripped of all of those things. And this is very intentional, right? So that they can always be a vulnerable group. And honestly, the scene where Remick saw the juke joint, and it was like it kind of like burned the walls down to where he was able to see right into it. That was the perfect representation, because by Sammy, again, just living in his power, having his talent, it was bringing everybody together. Yes, so much so to where it was as if it like burnt the walls down. Like it was so powerful. Like, to me, it was as if the energy was so powerful. Like the light vibrating from them, like they were vibrating at such like a powerful level, that it was as if it burned these walls down, because ultimately these walls are the things that confine us. And it reminds me of a parallel between, like, how we had the white church house in the beginning with the father, and then you had this juke joint, okay, where the white church house, okay, for one, it's white. It's in the daytime, that's the only time we really see it. And then you have the juke joint, which is like a darker brown. It's in the night, and again, both in isolated areas. And these are places where black folk feel that they can be free, right? In the beginning, you see the church, and again, isolated area. It was as if, again, black folk could not be free everywhere. They had to have selected areas where they could be free, and they could feel like they could do them. But even so, you get up in there and everybody's not really being free. At least, and not saying that church you can't feel like you can be free. I'm saying just in general, in this sense, with this scene and in this movie, it was as if people really wasn't able to be free. Okay, they're only wearing like really one type of color. Everybody's sitting down. Even when the at the very end and Sammy comes in, he got a big gash on his face from those claw marks from Remick, and he's bleeding, and he's like limping, and the mom was like, "Oh my God, Sammy!" And the dad's like, "Nope, like sit back down." Again, showing that he run this shit. Again, just like Remick, he runs whatever he got going on over there, and Sammy's father runs whatever they got going on over there, compared to the juke joint where everybody had free reign. And they were just having fun. Everybody could wear what they want, they could eat what they want, drink what they want, whatever the case is, and they're actually being able to let their hair down. And again, I'm not saying that ain't no sinful stuff is not gonna happen. I mean, yeah, you know, Sammy was over there finding that button, and the woman goddamn husband. And we never really find out how old Sammy is and how old that woman is, because I was just like, aren't you a little older lady? Hold on. But I don't think that Sammy was a minor, but at the same time, I get it, because it's called Sinners, so I can't expect much. Like, I don't expect you to be all holier than thou. So yeah, but again, you actually have freedom. You have freedom at the juke joint. You have freedom of speech. You have freedom of your clothing. You have freedom of what you guys listen to. The entertainment, you can perform if you want. Compared to with the church scene, you don't have that freedom. Actually, you don't have freedom of what you want to wear. You all need to wear white, or some or like how this person's wearing like cream and white, whatever the case is. You can't just be sitting up and dancing and doing this and that. You need to be sitting down until it's time for maybe praise and worship. But even when he first walked in, they were singing in the choir, and even then they were singing only in a certain way, right? Now, we know, black folk know, there are some black churches. There's a lot of black churches that get down. Okay, it's not represented like this necessarily, but again, for back in the day, this is probably a more accurate representation. But I'll say, even back in the day, they were still able to get down, and that's the only places where slave masters were allowing you to get down, because you do it in the Word of God. But they'll be like, not too much, but as long as you listening to that word, the Word of God, the one that's telling you to turn the other cheek and to forgive and treat your master like God, then yeah, we gonna let y'all do that. But again, it's just that parallel, and it's just showing that somebody else is in charge, and you're going to have to submit to that person, and you're going to have to relinquish that control and your freedom. But anyway, by doing this though, like going back to like the juke joint, by doing this, and not only by doing this, but by doing this and being free, but also not being educated on how to protect yourself spiritually, okay? Because they, for so many generations, they demonize your spiritual practices from your ancestors. Now you are vulnerable. Okay, now you are vulnerable. You don't got any protection. You don't even know how to protect yourself, and now you're up for the taking, basically. Compared to the Native Americans, where they do know who they are, where they come from, all these things, they are connected to, where that's why they had Remick running from the hills. Like, just imagine how the movie would have went if most people in that juke joint understood hoodoo and understood how to protect themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would be no match. Mind you, it was only three of them. In the beginning, it was only Remick and the two other people. That's it. Against a whole juke joint of African Americans. Hello? If we would have been connected, if we knew our roots, knew who we were, who knew where we came from, oh, they would have took care of them quick and would have got back to dancing, honey. Easily. But that's, again, why I feel like Ryan Coogler's telling you, hey, I need y'all to wake up. I need y'all to remember. Because there's a lot of stuff going on out here. Yes, you need to know how to physically protect yourselves, but spiritual warfare is real. It is. So I love the way that Ryan Coogler humanized our spiritual practices. And, I know more black folk was just like, you know what? Let me look into this. Or they probably heard about it before but thought, oh, because I don't know it and because it's not Christianity, it has to be demonic, so let me stay away from it. So I do appreciate that, but don't, just not too much, y'all. Like I said, not too much on social media giving away the secrets. Like, come on now. But going back to like that last scene, well, not the last scene, the scene where Sammy comes into the church and his father's reaction is very telling, right? Like, the father isn't initially worried about his son and his well-being. Instead, he immediately, for one, he tells the mom to sit down, right? Of course, the mother's like, oh my God, my son, right? But you would think a father, okay, who loves his son, and I'm not saying he didn't love him at all, but who cherishes his son and values his son's well-being, you would think he would be like, what happened? Like, what happened to you? Like, give him a hug or whatever the case is, make sure he's good. Instead, and also everybody else was just sitting there too. It's as if, again, he got them trained to a T. But instead of seeing that and seeing his son and seeing him wounded and hurt, he instead is immediately trying to get him to commit to the church and submit to the church and to never be able to, play the way that he wants to again. And just, I'm like, again, very telling. That's why him and Remick parallel each other. And in the very first, minute or two of the movie, they do that switch. They do those couple of flashes from the father to Remick, because they're ultimately doing the same thing. Ultimately. And that's why I was so glad that although he had to sacrifice his family, I'm sure his friends and people that he knew and everything like that, sacrifice everything that he knew. And he chose himself and he chose his freedom. He did not let go of that guitar. And so I like post time skip. We actually get to see Sammy grow old. And mind you, he's played by Buddy Guy, who's an actual, in real life, Chicago blues guitarist and singer. Like, who better to play this role than him? I was like, oh, I just love the details. Okay, great job, Ryan Coogler. Great job, honestly. But we get to see him grow old, and he runs a club called Pearlines, or Pearlines, or whatever the case is. And he's just being free. He chose his freedom. He chose himself. He does say he's still hunted by that night, because who wouldn't be? The hell, that was extremely traumatic. But we see the difference between him and Stack. And this is somebody who, this is why we're going to need another episode, because I low-key want to pivot in a completely different direction, but I know I'm going to be here too long. But I'll just say this. When I say choose freedom, and this is like a call to action to choose freedom, remember who you are, you have to also have discernment, because even Stack did not choose to get turned, no. But he was messing with that lady. He was messing with Mary. I'm not necessarily saying messing with Mary itself was what did it, what doomed him to his fate. I mean, can we? I think actually we can. We could probably say that. Somebody could argue that, actually. But I'll say this. Ultimately, it was because him messing with that lady, you know? Him messing with that lady, but also her thinking that it's okay to just move to and from. If you gon' this is my thing. If you gonna be in the juke joint, be in the juke joint. You can't be being in the juke joint, but then also trying to use your privilege to go ahead and go talk to these folk. No, that back and forth. You see what ended up happening? Your ass got, and then you came and got everybody else's asses. But even in that moment where okay, now she's technically a vampire, um, and her and Stack start going at it. It's like for them that was freedom in a way, right? Because they did love each other. Mary and Stack did love each other, but it was as if they in this life we just can't be together. It's not safe for either one of us, but especially Stack and black folk around them to be with you. It's just not safe. And Mary didn't truly understand it because again, she doesn't have that problem to necessarily deal with. And this is why I say race is a social construct. It quite literally is. There was no like back in the day there was no such thing as like white folk and this folk and that folk, and it wasn't. That was a literal thing that was created. And even when we look at like the certain rules, like okay, if you have 1 inch or 1% of this in you, then that's just what you are. But then with colorism and things like that, oh yeah, and texturism, depending on your hair and your skin tone, oh yeah, you gonna get treated differently though. You got the brown bag test and things like that. So even though Mary was just like, well, I got some black in me. I grew up around black folk. I think did she say her grandfather was black or has some black in him? Something like that. But it's like this is not necessarily like a biracial person that they haven't have necessarily. It's like she got some black in her. But mind you, there's a lot of white folk that got black in them, honey. Like, and I promise you, I say this all the time. I say, oh yeah, if they finally try to give out reparations, a whole bunch of non-black folk gonna be trying to say go trace back to their ancestors that they got some black in them. I'm like, well yeah, a lot of y'all do because a lot of y'all ancestors was, assaulting our ancestors. A lot of y'all ancestors owned our ancestors. So yeah, you gonna find it. If you look hard enough, you gonna find it. And when there's money involved or some type of reparation involved, I promise you they gonna find it. Now everybody gonna be black. But anyway, the point of the matter is that Mary just didn't understand the danger. And this is why I say, and another thing too, Stack had her a little too comfortable. Cause that's nothing. Her being like, oh, I was raised up with y'all. I got some black in me. I'm sleeping with a black man. She's a little too comfortable, child. She talking about I could beat up any bitch up in here. I said, wait, who? I know you fucking lying. See, that's what I'm saying. Like you can give him an inch, take a mile. Okay, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. I'm not saying you can't beat nobody up, but every bitch in here, child, got her too comfortable. But like I was saying, she don't understand the danger, and she didn't even understand the danger of like her presence even being there. Okay, and I understand that she had her little struggles too, but some can argue that that's a part of the black experience of understanding the do's and don'ts, what you can and can't do, what you could be hung for. And even her just waltzing in there and, not even when he's like, look, you can't be here, you can't be around here. Her just not even understanding her positionality. Okay, like I know she was like, well, I don't want to be white, I want to be with you, and I get that. But you not thinking about nobody but yourself in this moment because you're putting everybody in danger by you just being here. That's actually a study that I would love to do at some point. Like, what does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be black? Because if you ask different people, it means different stuff. Sometimes as a black person, you ever hear somebody be like, oh, you don't talk black. You don't sound black. You don't dress black. You don't this black. You don't that. Huh? What that mean? What? Hold on, why do I have to prove my blackness? Like, what's going on? You get me what I'm trying to say? So it's just like, what does that mean? Because somebody could argue that it's a part of the black experience, especially during this point in time in the movie. in this time period. A part of being black is understanding where you cannot be. We had a whole booklet. Oh, okay. I forgot the name of it. What? Hold on. Here it is. It was called the Negro Traveler's Green Book. Okay. So this was a guidebook for African American road trippers, letting you know where the sunset towns was and all that kind of stuff. Like what places are okay for us to actually go to and come out alive. You see what I'm trying to say? If you want to look more into this, it was founded by Victor Hugo Green, who was an African American postal worker, and it was published annually from 1936 to 1966. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a part of the black experience, okay, of like knowing that I can go somewhere and get lynched just for being black. And that's something that Mary didn't understand, and she showed that she didn't understand that. She showed. And also, quite frankly, she showed that she kind of didn't care. She was just, and that's why I'm saying, like, she, even though she didn't want to identify with white or her whiteness, she identifies more with it. She had a certain entitlement that white people tend to have. And that's why it's just like, it's funny because it's a social construct, right? Of like, okay, what is black, what is white? Because from back then, we do have different rules now of what's considered black, what's considered white, what's considered non-black, or whatever the case is. It's, again, social construct. But what I will say is how she was moving in the movie, she didn't identify that much with blackness because she's not moving like a black person because she's able to move so freely because of her whiteness. So it's like, even though you fighting so hard to get away from your whiteness, it's all through you, honey. The fact that you here right now, it's like, yeah, she, even the fact that she was like, let me go talk to him, like, because she knew that she could. But ultimately, you trying to go to and from, you trying to have one foot here, one foot there, is going to be our demise. Sometimes you just going to have to, look from outside the club. You feel me? Like, sometimes you're going to have to just understand, like, this ain't for me. I don't need to be free with them tonight in this juke joint because I'm free every other day of the week. Hello? They don't get that freedom. So I'm going to let them have their time. But again, she was only thinking about herself and, her wanting to be with Stack and this, that, and third, even though he's trying to tell her, like, yes, I love you, but it is not safe for us to be together. It just isn't. And it sucks. It does. But you would think for somebody who's truly black and truly understands the fears of being black, the consequences of being black during this time, would understand it sucks, but we can't be together. But again, she doesn't understand because she doesn't have that experience. So therefore, she's just like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm not here for you. I'm just going to be here in y'all space. And I'm going to just be here. Knowing why she was really there. But it's just like, still, you putting everybody in danger. And ultimately, you were the one to be the downfall. But also, people like Stack, you also are putting yourself in danger by allowing this, right? And not nipping it in the bud either. And so we get this cautionary tale once again. I mean, I don't know. It's like, here's the thing. I don't know how many cautionary tales need to be told of like, stay away from the white women, child. Look, but I'll say this, because, multiple things to be true at once. I'll say this. I'm not saying that you can't find love, with somebody who is not of your same race. But what I will say is just know your history. Know your history. Understand that a snake is still a snake. This snake may not be a poisonous snake, right? Your specific snake that you done found and, may not be a specific snake, but just it's a snake based off of your history as a black woman, a black man, whatever. A snake is still a snake. Does that mean you can't still have fun with this snake? Does that mean that this snake can't fall in love with you and y'all can have a nice relationship? No, it doesn't mean that. But a snake is a snake. So therefore proceed with caution. I think that's the biggest thing. And for anybody getting mad, what are you talking about? White people fuck with snake? Look at the history. And the fact that you've been getting mad shows that this message is not for you and you ain't gonna understand. And if you see the history, you read up on the history extensively, and you still feeling that way, shows your privilege anyway. But anyway, point of the matter is, I think that it's again just the history of like the cautionary tale of like, hey, you need to leave these white women alone, child. They gonna get you every time, even sometimes when it's not even necessarily their intention. But again, I understand it in the sense of like you can genuinely find love. And I'm sure that's also why they fell in love, because of their proximity with each other, of her mother taking care of everybody when they grew up and everything like that. Like they were able to be around each other. So yeah, it makes sense that they fell in love. But you have to be wary. You really do. You gotta have your discernment. You can't play. Smoke told you to nip the shit in the bud. He said to take care of it before I do. You didn't take care of it. Well, you took care. You handled it in a different way, but that way got your ass got, and it fucked up everything actually. So it's showing like, hey, we can't we can't let these you can't let certain people infiltrate these spaces. I don't care what y'all got going on. She should not have been there that night. Point blank. Period. Now I know some people were like, well, if that didn't happen, the KKK would have got them in the morning. Okay, well, if they would have, because that was the thing. That's another thing. They had their guns, but the guns was outside. So it's like, if they would have, did the juke joint and then just would have left that night, yeah, they probably would have took down the juke joint, did this, did that, but it wouldn't have been this type of massacre. People would have still been able to get home to their damn families. That would have just been like, unless they was planning on dancing until the morning, then that would have been different. But it's like, again, they just had that one night, and if Stack didn't really allow her to stay there, none of that would have happened in that way, because they would have just told Remick and them to leave, and it just would have been that. Now, mind you, of course, somebody would have been like, well, they would have just got them when they went to their car. Okay, but mind you, there was only 3 of them, so it wouldn't have been that type of massacre. It's really going down to these two. It's coming down to these two. Mary specifically, because she was like, Cornbread, you better let me in. Like, come on now. So even Cornbread needs to have some type of accountability of like, look, Mary, I know we know each other. I know. And if you want to talk to Stack, I'll tell him to come here and he could go outside with you. But I can't let your ass in here because you're putting everybody in danger. But again, it's that proximity. It reminds me of like when y'all be giving people black cards. Oh yeah, this person can say the N word. They cool. They blacker than some of the people that I know. Mind you, a whole white person. What's going on? Oh yeah, this person welcome to the cookout. Huh? Y'all overly going. Y'all too easy for me. I'm sorry. You got somebody who's non-black going viral for rapping a black song, something that black folk do all the time and get called ghetto for it. Y'all got people going and getting millions of dollars and changing their entire lives for sounding like how a random black woman sounds on the day-to-day. But she gets called ghetto for it. But the white person doing it or non-black person doing it, it could be an Asian person, it could be whoever, Latina, whoever, Latino, whatever they're doing, they biting off our shit and they changing their whole lives off of it. But when we do it and we're just existing, oh, we're ghetto? Huh? I'm saying y'all are too easy. I'm sorry. Y'all are too easy and overly going. I don't like it. Nip it in the bud. Like Smoke said, get her on out of here before I do. You go talk to her outside, but she can't be up in here, just plain and simple. So all this, it stems down to that. So that's a big plot line, and that's a big lesson to be learned. So I hope people caught it. I mean, like I said, that does not mean you can't, this person's against interracial relationships. No, I've been in an interracial relationship. Point of the matter is, you just got to remember, a snake is a snake, especially if it's white folk. And the reason I say this is because of the history of the country. The history's there. Not like I'm just pulling that out of my ass. The history is there. So when you black, you have to watch out for everybody. Yes, everybody. Yes, unfortunately, but especially white folk, because they just come from a lot. They come from a lot that is that wants you in more ways than one. But going back to the topic of freedom, no, Stack didn't choose to, just walk out there with Remick thinking that, what he was selling was actual freedom. No, but him wanting to be with Mary in the way that they were able to. Remember, in the juke joint, they were able to dance together. They were able to just be together in front of everybody. They didn't have to conceal anything. That was also their freedom. Instead of kicking her out, he, because he was part of, this juke joint is his and his brother. So he's like, well, shoot. I mean, yeah, I mean, I do love her. I do want her here. That is freedom for him. So if this is a night where we letting everybody be free, well, shit, I want to be free too. I get that. I get it. Even when it came to like her, wanting to sleep with him, this, that, and the third. I get it that he wants to be free with her in that moment. That's freedom for him. Unfortunately, and again, even when I say choose your freedom, unfortunately, his freedom is tied to something that ultimately effed everything up. And really, again, she didn't have to go out there to talk to them people. I know that him and his brother was in a financial bind, but they didn't have, like, they could have did that a different time, a different day, and it probably would have happened a different day and a different time. But the point of the matter is just that you need to just get it on your own. But see, it's hard to say that because, again, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. See, but this is what I'm saying. I love stuff like this because it's all these layers and all this nuance to where some people have the conversation of, well, I feel like this would have happened regardless, even if it wasn't on this day. Wouldn't they still have needed help to get the money since they had, stole from the other people to get here? That very well might have been true, honey. It might have been true, but all I know is that night they should have left them white folk alone. Mary should have either if you are gonna be in there, cornbread doesn't let you in there, Stack is not taking you out, stay your ass in there. This is not the time. This is really not the time to be going back and forth. But again, Mary don't understand that because she is privileged. So, and she living her life just as a white woman. So it's just like, I mean, she damn near basically is, if we're going to be real. Even back then. Because even back then, if you had a drop of black in you, you was considered black. But as we see, you still get treated differently. And you're able to move to and from these different parts of your identity easier than somebody who is, you look at them and you know for sure they black. But anyway, going back to that, we get to actually see that, like, Stack and Mary, their souls aren't free. And they have to forever be still trapped. They're still not free. They can never see the sun again. He never can see his brother again. He is never going to reach like an afterlife where he can be with his brother again. And they still cannot be together in the light. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, they can only be together at night. And then that makes me think of back in the day. That's probably how they were doing it too. When they were like younger, they could probably only really see each other and be with each other in the darkness, in the night. They really couldn't be out and about in the daytime. So it's kind of like they were kind of forced to be back to how they were. And it's just like, damn. Now, of course, as the time changes, interracial relationships, they still gonna be living. So it's more accepted. But it's just like, damn, we still don't have freedom. I'm just like, damn. But like I said, when I say choose your freedom, freedom is going to be different for everybody. Like, when I say choose your freedom in the sense of, like, okay, choose your talent, choose your inner power. Choose, like, just like how Sammy chose to leave the church and he chose to, again, he said no to Remick. He chose his freedom in that way. Even when he hit Remick with his guitar and that ultimately had like saved him, that's him choosing his power. When he told us, when he left the church, that was him choosing his power, and he chose himself and he became a blues singer and guitarist. That was him choosing his freedom. But for somebody else, their freedom is something else, right? Like Delta Slim, his freedom was like alcohol. For Stack and Mary, it was being together. Because he didn't have to say yes to her trying to sleep with him. But that was, he loved her. He loved her. That was him choosing his freedom. It's a lot. So everybody gonna choose something different. But what I will say is I am glad that Sammy did choose to keep singing the blues. He got his guitar fixed, and he's just ultimately living his best life. And honestly, even when Stack and Mary came and was just like, we could change you, because again, it's as if they still think that would free him. Why? I'm like, a part of me think that y'all are lonely. A part of me thinks that, because I'm just like, no, I'm able to move from the day to the night. I'm able to sing and play my guitar and age and move on. My soul is still good. I'm gonna see Smoke and Annie and their baby. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for you. But you're not. But I am. I'm not, and I can. And mind you, I'm already old. Like he said, I think I've seen enough. I'm good. I don't need to be here forever. Only being able to go out at night. I don't need that. Eating on people and shit. I don't need that. Absolutely not. So I was glad that, Sammy was just like, I'm good. But and then that last scene where he was just like, I wake up every night, or yeah, I think he said I kind of like, have that nightmare every night of that night. But before all that happened, before the sun went down, it was the best day of my life. Like, was that the same for you? And I was just like, my heart, bro. But it was just as if like everybody got to be free in some way, shape, or form that night. Even Perlene's ass, because she grimy as hell, cheating on her husband, But again, we got sinners. You feel me? Mary, she I think she was already promised to somebody too. But it's just like we also don't know their familial circumstances and their relationship dynamics. But again, sinners, they were sinning, right? But that comes with giving people freedom. It does. Like, yeah, just like how we had the church scene, everybody sitting there being quiet, like, sitting up straight, this, that, and the third. Like, yeah, you may not have a whole bunch of sin, but you also don't have no freedom either. Compared to where you have someplace like the juke joint, yeah, you're free, but then a lot of other stuff is gonna happen too. Just like when they had to beat up that one guy because he was stealing from in the game, and they beat his ass to a pulp. They did so much so that they had thought he was dead. They had thought he was dead and he wasn't. So, yeah, whole lot of, but this movie was a masterpiece in my eyes. It truly was. Um, you know, it we gonna have to talk about it more. But let me know what y'all thought about this movie. This made me want to watch it again, not gonna lie. But yeah, tell me what y'all thought about this movie. This movie was, for me, was definitely one where I had to watch multiple times just to, like, for one, take it in, then for two, taking it again, and then for three, okay, now I brought my notes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and we gonna do some notes, and then the fourth time, now I'm taking notes on different things. So that's how I am with this movie. Like, I really enjoyed it. I could talk about it all day, honestly, because there's so many details. But yeah, let me know what y'all would like to hear next about Sinners, or even just your thoughts on it. But I will see y'all next week. Thank you for joining me on the Between the Lines podcast. I'm your host, Shania Trotter, and y'all have a great time. Bye.